Single dad was rejected on a Christmas blind date until a woman asked, "Will you be my husband?" The rejection happened on Christmas Eve, beneath blinking fairy lights and falling snow, when hope felt most fragile and the world seemed determined to test how much disappointment one man could endure without breaking. The single father sat alone at a small cafe table meant for two, hands wrapped around a cooling cup of coffee, watching couples laugh outside the frosted window while his phone stayed silent. He had already put on his best coat, shaved carefully that morning, and practiced smiling in the mirror so his daughter would believe he was brave. Yet there he was, rejected before the date even began, feeling like the universe had circled his loneliness in red ink. And he had no idea that this quiet, humiliating moment was only the beginning of a Christmas that would change his life forever. Before the story unfolds any further, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that life can surprise us when we least expect it, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may be hurting right now. The man's name was Daniel, a 38-year-old single dad who had learned to carry disappointment the way some people carried umbrellas, always prepared for the storm. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him with a 6-year-old daughter named Lily, and a silence in their small apartment that never quite went away. Since then, Daniel's life had become a careful routine of school drop-offs, late shifts at a warehouse, homework at the kitchen table, and bedtime stories read with a lump in his throat. Christmas was the hardest season of all, because it magnified both joy and absence, and every carol seemed to echo what was missing. The blind date had not been his idea. It came from a coworker who insisted that Daniel deserved happiness and that loneliness was not a life sentence. The woman was supposed to meet him at the cafe after work. Just a simple coffee, nothing serious. Daniel almost canceled, but Lily had hugged him that morning and told him she wanted Santa to bring her daddy a smile. That alone had pushed him out the door. The rejection came in the form of a polite message sent minutes before the meeting time. The woman explained that she had looked him up on social media and realized he was a single father. She said she wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility and wished him luck. Daniel read the message twice, then folded his phone away as if hiding it could soften the sting. He didn't feel angry, just tired, and deeply embarrassed that hope had dared to show up again. He stayed seated long after he should have left, partly because the cold outside felt unbearable, and partly because he didn't want to return home too early and face Lily's expectant eyes. The cafe was warm and softly lit, decorated with pine garlands and ornaments that reflected memories he didn't want to revisit. Around him, people chatted and laughed, their happiness loud and effortless. Daniel felt invisible, like a background extra in everyone else's movie. Eventually, he stood and paid, nodding to the barista who had given him a sympathetic smile. As he stepped outside, snowflakes drifted down slowly, catching in his hair and on his coat. He walked aimlessly for a while, letting the cold numb the ache in his chest. He told himself that rejection was better than false hope, that he should be grateful for what he had. Still, the words felt hollow. That night, after Lily fell asleep clutching her stuffed reindeer, Daniel sat alone by the small Christmas tree he had managed to afford. Its lights blinked unevenly, and one ornament was cracked, but Lily loved it anyway. He stared at the wrapped presents beneath it, and wondered if this was all life would ever be, a quiet endurance rather than a shared joy. Christmas morning arrived with Lily's laughter and excitement, briefly pushing sadness aside. Daniel played his role well, smiling, cheering, making pancakes shaped like stars. But when the day slowed and the afternoon light faded, the loneliness crept back in. He took Lily to a nearby community center hosting a holiday event, hoping the noise and cheer would distract both of them. The center was crowded with families, volunteers, and people who had nowhere else to go. There was music, free food, and a small stage where children lined up to meet Santa. Daniel stayed close to Lily, helping her navigate the chaos. That was when he noticed a woman standing near the far wall, watching the room with an expression that was hard to read. She wasn't dressed extravagantly, just a simple coat and scarf, but there was a quiet presence about her that drew attention without demanding it. Her name was Anna, though Daniel wouldn't learn that until much later. She had come to the center alone, volunteering to help serve meals. Like Daniel, she carried her own invisible weight. Years earlier, she had lost her parents in an accident, and since then, Christmas had become something she endured rather than celebrated. She volunteered because helping others felt easier than facing her own empty apartment. Daniel and Anna crossed paths when Lily accidentally dropped her plate. Anna helped clean it up, smiling gently at Lily and offering her a cookie from the dessert table. Daniel thanked her, their eyes meeting briefly. It was a simple moment, but something about it felt grounding, as if the noise around them faded for a second. They didn't exchange numbers or make plans. They simply shared space, helping where they could, watching Lily laugh with other children. But for Daniel, that brief human connection lingered. It reminded him that kindness still existed, that being seen didn't always require explanations or apologies. Days passed. After Christmas, and life returned to its usual rhythm. Daniel worked, cared for Lily, and tried not to dwell on what might have been. Then, one evening, he received a message through the community center's volunteer group. Anna had posted a thank you note to everyone who helped, mentioning the single dad who stayed late to clean up and made sure every child felt included. She didn't name him, but Daniel recognized himself in the words. Something in his chest loosened. They began exchanging messages about volunteering opportunities, nothing personal at first. Over time, they shared small pieces of their lives, the kind that slipped out naturally. Anna learned about Lily, about Daniel's late wife, about the blind date that never happened. Daniel learned about Anna's loss, her quiet holidays, her longing for something steady and real. What surprised Daniel most was that Anna never treated his role as a father like baggage. She saw it as part of who he was, something that spoke of loyalty and depth rather than limitation. Slowly, without grand gestures, trust formed. Months later, as spring melted into summer, Daniel and Anna found themselves spending more time together. Lily adored Anna, not because she tried to replace anyone, but because she listened, laughed, and showed up consistently. Daniel was cautious, afraid of hope, but Anna's presence felt different. It felt safe. Then came another Christmas, almost a year after the night Daniel had been rejected and left sitting alone in a cafe. This time the season felt warmer, less sharp around the edges. Daniel, Lily, and Anna volunteered together at the same community center, serving meals and hanging decorations. The air buzzed with familiar music and laughter. As the evening wound down, the lights dimmed slightly, and snow began to fall outside the windows just like before. Daniel felt a strange sense of completion, as if the year had quietly closed a circle. He looked at Anna, who was watching Lily help a younger child put on mittens, her face soft with affection. In that moment, Anna understood something clearly. She didn't want another year of temporary connections or guarded hearts. She had seen Daniel at his lowest, seen how he loved his child, how he endured without bitterness. She had seen how her own life felt fuller, steadier, simply by standing beside him. Without speeches or dramatics, she asked him to marry her, not as a fairy tale proposal, but as an honest offering of partnership, family, and shared resilience. It wasn't about perfection or rescue. It was about choosing each other, fully aware of the scars they both carried. Daniel was stunned, not because he didn't care, but because he had spent so long believing he was too much and not enough at the same time. In Anna's eyes, he saw certainty, not pity. He saw a future built on mutual understanding rather than idealized romance. And for the first time since his wife's passing, he allowed himself to believe that happiness could look different and still be real. Their marriage didn't erase the past, it honored it. They blended their losses into a new story. One where Lily grew up surrounded by love that was earned, not assumed. Christmas became a season of warmth again, filled with laughter, volunteering, and quiet gratitude for the twists life takes. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that rejection does not define worth and that love can arrive in unexpected ways. Please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching people who need them. And before this video ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel, or tell us about a moment when life surprised you after disappointment. Your words might be the encouragement someone else is searching for. Daniel's story is not about being chosen after rejection. It's about becoming open again after pain, about understanding that sometimes the door that closes is not a judgment but a redirection. On one Christmas Eve, he sat alone, believing he had been quietly dismissed by life. A year later, he stood surrounded by warmth, chosen not in spite of his past, but because of it. And that is how hope often works, quietly waiting for us to stop running from it and brave enough to let it in.